Savadutam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopi Shah Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpata Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prestaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, can you see the screen? Is the screen visible?
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's April 8th, 2023. We're studying Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 9, entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge, text 33 and 34. So text 33, I'll start with the Sanskrit words responsively. Kim, Puna,
Punar,
Ramana, Punya, Bhakta, Rajarshayas, Tata, Anityam, Asukam, Lokam, Imam, Prapya, Bhajasva, Mam, Kim Punar Brahmana Punya Bhakta
Rajarshayas
Anityam
Sukham Lokam
Imam Prapya
Bhajasvamam
Kim Punar Brahmana Punya Bhakta Rajarshayas Tata Anityam Sukham Lokam Imam Prapya Bhajasvamam Kim Punar Brahmana Punya Bhakta Rajarshayas Tata Anityam Sukham Lokam Imam Prapya Bhajasvamam
Kim Punar Brahmana Punya Bhakta Rajarshayas
Tata
Anityam
Sukham Lokam
Imam Prapya
Bhajasvamam.
Anyone else would like to repeat?
Kim Punar Brahmana Punya Bhakta Rajashayastata Anityam Asukam Lokam Imam Prapya Bhajasvamam.
Kim. How much?
Punaha.
Again.
Ramana.
Brahmanas,
Brahmanas,
Punya,
Punya,
righteous,
righteous,
Bhakta,
Bhakta,
devotees,
devotees,
Vajarshaya,
Rajarshaya,
saintly kings,
saintly kings,
Tata,
Tatha,
also,
also,
Anityam,
Anityam,
temporary,
temporary,
Asukam,
Asukham,
sorrowful,
sorrowful,
Lokam,
Lokam,
planets,
planets,
Imam,
Imam,
this,
this,
Prapya,
Prapya,
gaining,
gaining,
Bhajasva,
Bhajasva,
are engaged in loving service.
are engaged in loving service.
Mam,
Mam,
unto me.
unto me.
Translation. How
Translation.
much greater then are the Brahmins, the righteous, the devotees, and saintly kings who in this temporary miserable world engage in loving service unto me. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this material world, there are classifications of people, but after all, this world is not a happy place for anyone. It is clearly stated here, Nityam Asukam Lokam. This world is temporary and full of miseries, not habitable for any sane gentleman. This world is declared by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be temporary and full of miseries. Some of the philosophers, especially the minor philosophers, say that this world is false, but we can understand from Bhagavad Gita that the world is not false. It is temporary. There is a difference between temporary and false. This world is temporary, but there is another world which is eternal. This world is miserable, but the other world is eternal and blissful. Arjuna was born in a saintly royal family. To him also the Lord says, take to my devotional service and come quickly back to Godhead, back home. No one should remain in this temporary world, full as it is with miseries. Everyone should attach himself to the bosom of the Supreme Personality of Godhead so that he can be eternally happy. The devotional service of the Supreme Lord is the only process by which all problems of all classes of men can be solved. Everyone should therefore take to Krishna consciousness and make his life perfect. Should we just speak on that?
Yes,
email.
or there's another verse if you would like to.
Well, no, I mean, typically I do one verse.
Yes,
so.
okay, that's fine.
All right. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarini. Okay. So, at the beginning of the 9th chapter, this is we're coming towards the end of the 9th chapter. So at the beginning of the 9th chapter, Krishna begins the chapter. Idam tu te guyatamam prabhakshami yana suyave. Jnanam vigyanam sayatam. Yajgatva moksha se subat. Krishna says to Arjuna, because you're anasuyave, because you're not envious of me. Therefore, I'm speaking this most confidential knowledge to you. And hearing this, receiving this, applying this knowledge, you'll be relieved from the miseries of material existence. If you'd like, we can take off the share screen, if you'd like.
Okay.
Yes. And so, so we're hearing Krishna's compassion for us here. And so here in this verse and purport that we're reading today, text 33. I'll just mention we had several in our community trying to get in, and they didn't have the passcode. So now I want to see if they have it, and so that they could get into the class here. Okay. All right. So here, Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing that this material existence is no place for any sane gentleman. Prabhupada would often quote, he would quote Bhaktisiddhanta saying, this material existence is no place for a gentle person. And because in previous verses in this chapter, there's different types of persons described. So Prabhupada's emphasizing in this material world, there are classifications of people. But after all, this world is not a happy place for anyone. So kind of like the problems given here, the problem and the solution. So 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, problem is given. Janma Mritu Jaravyadi Dukkha Dosha Nudarshana. Birth, death, old age, disease, samsara davanala lidaloka. So this cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. So Prabhupada will so often have, those are the real problems. Those are the real problems. In a sense, other problems that we're grappling with, they're actually avoidance of the real problems. Other problems relate to eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Yeah. And so these eating, sleeping, mating, and defending problems, they're actually an avoidance. Of course, we want to attend to eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, just like we attend to a car. But really, the real goal is nourishing the driver of the car. So eating, sleeping, mating, defending type problems, they tend to be an avoidance of the pillars of material existence: birth, death, old age, disease. And with this bhakti yoga process, then we have, okay, this is a solution. This is a solution to the real problems of getting free from being trapped in a body that's subject to birth, death, disease, old age. And so Prabhupada says this material existence, it's not a happy place for anyone. So for genuine, to get motivated in spiritual life, it's vital that we get that. It's not a happy place for anyone. There's a text by Queen Kunti in the 8th chapter of the 1st canto, Janmeshwara Shutashubir, Edamana Bada Puman, Naivarhat Yabidatum Vai Tvama Kinchana Gochara. So she says that for those for whom material life is relatively nice, for those for whom material life is relatively nice, but relative, that's a key thing. Material life means oh, look, my suffering is less than my neighbor's, or it's less than mine yesterday. But that's relative. It's not the positive bliss of the soul. So for those for whom material suffering is relatively nice, then it's difficult. It's difficult to get intense. Tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta pushampara. It's difficult to get intense about serving Krishna with 100% commitment. Queen Kunti refers to Krishna as Tvam, Tvam akinchana gochara. You're the shelter. You're the shelter for the materially exhausted. So it means to take with deep sincerity, not just in a superfluous way, but to give with deep sincerity. It means we need to be materially exhausted. No more illusions that by higher levels of eating, sleeping, mating, defending, by higher levels of popularity and compliments and in society, friendship, material love, we'll be happy and fulfilled. Prabhupada so often gives the metaphor of a fish out of water. Our water is eternity. That we're meant in the human form to voluntarily, to choose do austerity, to give up immediate, shallow, superficial gratification for eternal, ever-increasing, ever-deepening spiritual bliss. And so yeah, so means that we need to get like, yeah, this isn't a happy place. And Queen Kunti saying that for those who are doing well in terms of maybe an aristocratic birth or material wealth or material attractiveness or like that, then or the high education, then and then there's like relative happiness, then it's difficult to get intense about devotional service. Of course, Krishna says in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Suchinam Shimatam Gehe Yogo Brashto Bijayate. He says that for one who has made progress in Krishna consciousness and spiritual life, but hasn't completed, they might get a fortunate birth in a wealthy family. And so to understand it, there could seem to be a contradiction between what Krishna is saying there and what Queen Kunti is saying. But so the idea is that we, like, if one has a nice situation materially, then the idea is, oh, okay, so now I don't need to like work so hard just to pay the bills. So I got time to read Bhagavatam. I got time to chant the names of God. Okay, so that's the idea. That's why it's fortunate. But basically what happens, especially in this Kali Yuga, as we can see, like most who are very wealthy, it's not like, yeah, they're leading the way for the planet to serve God humbly with love and devotion. Generally, it becomes a bewilderment, like Queen Kunti warns. So this materially exhausted, it's not directly correlated. It's not directly correlated to any external situation. Someone can be very poverty-stricken, but they're not materially exhausted because their whole mentality is like they have envy, like, oh, why does he have that house and why does she drive that car and why is he getting appreciated for that accomplishment? I'll bring them down, and they could be motivated by envy and lust. And someone could have, billions and billions of dollars in a materially comfortable situation and realize, like, this isn't bringing me happiness. I'm exhausted with this. And let me turn to God. Let me turn to spiritual life. So Srila Prabhupada would sometimes say that his greatest fear, his greatest anxiety, spiritual anxiety, of course, his greatest anxiety is that his followers are not scared enough of Maya, are not scared enough of Maya. So, so there's unhealthy fear, but like spiritual life is a boy. It means it's fearless, that we courageously, boldly, with a daring spirit of adventure, give ourselves fully to the process of bhakti. At the same time, there's at the same time there's healthy fear. There's healthy fear, like a healthy fear of Maya, that keeps me vigilant and rigorous, and keeps us humble, humble, not to think like, oh yes, I'm steady now in my sadhana, and so because like in just one moment, literally one moment, we can just power of Maya can just completely bewilder us. So that there's okay. So like for devotional service, for the process of bhakti, so there's that like healthy fear, even let's call it a healthy spiritual sense of desperation, healthy spiritual sense of desperation, where the desperation, like, I'm suffering here, I'm suffering. Let me be humble enough to admit I'm suffering in embarrassment and shame and pain and fear and envy and jealousy. and it's like pretending that I got it together. Right? In the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives the soliloquy of the demon. And he says, like, yeah, I am Ishvaraham Ambogi, Siddhoham Balavan Sukhi, I am perfect, powerful, happy. So, so it requires like that desperation, acknowledge we're suffering. Also inspiration, like we certainly we want to cultivate. Certainly we want to cultivate that, like that positive inspiration to serve Prabhupada's movement, to chant the names of Krishna. Let's say like that positive inspiration moves us forward with acceleration, and that kind of like that healthy fear of falling into illusion and getting completely covered. That healthy fear can help us to ensure that there's no stumbling blocks along the way as we're increasing our pace on the path of perfection, back to self-realization, love of Krishna. So like, yeah, so we want to like develop this urgency, to get out of material existence. In one sense, in a higher level, which we don't want to imitate, but we can be inspired by and we can aspire towards. A devotee doesn't want to get out of material existence, like, right? Chakudana diloye janme janme prabhu say. So you open our eyes with transcendental knowledge. You are my Lord, birth after birth. Right? So really, if we look at the meaning behind that, we're saying, like, yeah, I have no hope. I have no hope to get liberated from material existence. Of course, I'm going to be suffering. Look at me. Of course, I'm going to be suffering material existence, birth after birth. Fine. Narayana prasavai not to crush Jani Bibyati, Svarga Pavarga Narakesha Vapi Tuyarta Darshina. Fine. Lord Shiva says to Parvati, look, a devotee like Maharaj Chitraketu, he could be in hell, he could be in heaven. He's just enthusiastic to serve Krishna. The devotees are so wonderful. Srila Prabhupada, he has in some of his writings, he writes to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati, he writes, I have no knowledge, I have no devotion, I have no hope. I have no hope for liberation from the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease for crores, for millions and millions and tens of millions of births. Fine, just let me serve your mission. Just let me serve your mission, birth after birth. Lord Chaitanya, in one of his Shikshastaka mantras, Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kapitamba Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Shri Bhavatad Bhakti Rahetu Kitvai. So he says, yeah, I have no desire for women, wealth, or followers. Just let me serve you, birth after birth. So Lord Chaitanya, Krishna in the mood of a devotee, is praying, is saying, like, well, of course, I have such little sincerity. I'm going to continue in material existence to get one material body after the next. Okay, as long as I can serve you, whether it's in this body, that body, this species, that planet, that universe, just let me serve you. So that's like a higher level. But I know for me, it's helpful to realize, like, this material, this is really pain and suffering. And sure, it might not be the highest level of devotion. But yeah, definitely, like if we can get motivated, from where we're at to, like, I really want to put an end to this material suffering from the cheating in my own mind and my own deceptions, and coming from just birth, death, old age, disease, eating, sleeping, mating, miseries coming from other people, and I'm cheating others, and I'm just finished with it. And physical suffering, mental torment. So that can be a motivator. It can be a motivator. We want to aspire towards, well, let me just serve Prabhupada's mission, birth after birth. And then a devotee in that consciousness is liberated. That's like the irony, we might say. It's like the irony. And so, so this is a theme here in Bhagavad Gita. Abrahma bhuvanalako punaravartinarjuna mamu pechitukante punarjana man nabijite. Krishna assures us, even in the planet of Brahma, from the highest heavenly planets to the lowest planets, all are temporary places full of suffering, because they're temporary. And this verse says the same thing. Anityam asukam lokam, temporary, full of misery, full of sorrow, all these planets. So like our water is eternity. We're only going to be satisfied with that pleasure, that gratification that will never be annihilated by time. Yes. And so okay. So in the verses preceding here, in the verses preceding, so well, this whole chapter is called the most confidential knowledge, and so Krishna starts, that I'm giving you this knowledge because you're not envious. So that's like our quality too. That's the quality to receive and get transformed and have our hearts cleansed by the vibrations of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada's purports, Krishna's words, Arjuna's questions, to be non-envious, right? In which, like, to give up any form of like, I want to do my own God project. And whereas rather than let me give myself to Krishna's pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, and just do that with my life. And then we're relieved and free and happy, right? So this chapter 9, most confidential knowledge, right? So that most confidential knowledge, it's like, what's so confidential about it? Bhagavad Gita, like millions of people know Bhagavad Gita. They've heard of Bhagavad Gita. It's confidential, but it's in the second verse of this chapter, Raja Vijay Raja Guyam Pavichami Damutamam. Krishna says, this is the most confidential knowledge, the secret of lights, this king of knowledge, the secret of all secrets, and it's directly experienced, and joyfully performed. Shushukam Kartumabhyam. So it's open, nothing confidential, but it's an open secret. In order to unlock the secret, we need to be in the line of Arjuna. Fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes Sevayam maya tedye yoga pokta paratana bhaktosi me sakascheti rahasyam yetadutama. That Krishna describes that again, just like the first verse of the 9th chapter. Arjuna is anasuyave, because Krishna says, because you're my devotee and my friend. Therefore you can understand the transcendental mystery. You can unlock the secret. And the secret, it's simple, that the goal of all Vedas, Vedas Chasavera Hame Vedru Vedatakrit Vedakrit Evacham, the goal of all the Vedas is Krishna, devotional service to Krishna. A few verses previous, Krishna says, Yad Koshi Yad Asnasi Yad Juhosi Dadasi Yad Tapasyasi Konte Matkusha Madarpanam. All that you do, all that you eat, all the offering, give away, do as an offering to me. Atram Pushpam Palam Tuyam Yomi Bhaktya Prayashipati Taram Bhakti Paratam Ashami Prayatatmanam. So Krishna is that it's the Prasadam verse that that everything let's have love for Krishna in the center. I mean, even if we're not feeling the love, but even if it's like, okay, we're spending some time here on a Saturday morning or a Saturday evening, giving our intelligence, giving some time to Bhagavad Gita. So that's like some spark of love. That's some spark of love for Srila Prabhupada and for Krishna. It might not be like the experience of prema, but we're showing. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sajakabunak Shavanadi Shudichite Karye Uday. Right, there's this one of Prabhupada's servants. There was a scene at the airport. Scene at the airport, and Prabhupada arrives, and there's ecstatic kirtan, so many devotees there, and then they get to Prabhupada. After they drive, they get to the temple wherever we're in Prabhupada's room, and the servant honestly shares, he says, "Oh, Prabhupada, all these devotees have so much love for you. And honestly, Prabhupada, I'm not feeling that, what they're feeling, honestly." And Prabhupada says, "Oh, do you like to prepare my bags and to carry my bags to help me travel?" And the servant says, yes, of course. Yes, so much. Do you like to prepare my prasad? Oh, yes. That's wonderful. So in that way, then Prabhupada said, that is love. That is love. So sometimes we can think of love as a feeling, bhava, prema, or a sentimental feeling. Okay, not there. But then, there's love. Love is a verb. Love is a verb. Love in action. Love in action. And so just here we are. We're giving some time to Bhagavad Gita, so that means like that shows some manifestation of wanting to manifest that love of Krishna that is intrinsic in all spirit souls, and that love of Krishna is manifest for most of us in a gradual way through this process of hearing and chanting. And let's see, now Srila Prabhupada, he has this term: this world is declared by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be temporary and full of miseries. Some of the philosophers, especially the minor philosophers, say that this world is false. But we can understand from Bhagavad Gita that the world is not false, it is temporary. Okay. So it's an interesting term, minor philosophers. I don't know of other places where Srila Prabhupada uses that term, minor philosophers. But I'm just I'll comment on what I'm getting, sort of like the really great realized philosophers, all the Vaishnavacharyas, or even not the Vaishnava, like even someone like Shankaracharya. So like he's not a minor philosopher. So even though of course he's a partial incarnation of Lord Shiva, and he has a particular mission to bewilder people, to bring them out of like a Buddhistic, nihilistic state to accepting the Vedas, the Brahman aspect, the oneness of all energies. Okay, but Shankaracharya, right? He says, "Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Muda Mate." Right? He says, at his deathbed, when he was leaving his body, "My foolish followers, just serve Govinda, serve Govinda." He's the author of the Jagannath Priya Astakam. He's the author of he's the revealer, Shankaracharya, of the Govindastakam. So even Shankaracharya, these great philosophers, they accept God. I'm thinking like, okay, we can think of like scientists. Okay. So for the most part, let's say like the most of the, in philosophy of science these days, like that, science can explain everything. We don't need to refer to this God. That's just primitive. Well, we can say, but we can, in Prabhupada's terminology, they're like the minor scientists. The great scientists like Einstein, Newton, Galileo, if we look like the really great scientists, they all accept. There's some higher intelligence. There's some higher intelligence. Some of them refer, to Christianity or like that. So, yes. So we have here like both kind of like the problem, entanglement, material existence, and like Prabhupada and Krishna compassion wanting us to get that. And then the joy of bhakti yoga, the joy of bhakti yoga. And so again, we can be inspired by the inspiration to serve, or just the desperation to get out of this misery. Both are complementary. Srila Prabhupada sometimes gives the example like drowning, like this. So many just heavy metaphors in the Shastra, drowning in the ocean. And we might hear that, but if we actually think about it, like it's just like this terrorizing experience, drowning in the ocean, or samsara dava nalalita, look, caught in a blazing forest fire. Like, wow, this my body's going to be burned. But the spiritual master is like the rain cloud, the rain cloud. Prahlad Maharaj describes Evam Janam Nibatitam Prabhavahi Kube. Prahlad Maharaj describes like that. Says like I've fallen in a pit of snakes. I've fallen in a pit of snakes, and my way out is to hear from my spiritual master, to serve my spiritual master, Sri Narada Muni. Let me do that. So So drowning in an ocean, and Prabhupada will emphasize, and like here's a boat, and it's all there. It's all there. Right? Here's a very secure boat. There's the Vedas, and there's the chanting of the holy name, and there's the bona fide spiritual master like that. And right, the devotional service of the Lord is the only process by which all problems of all classes of men can be solved. Everyone should therefore take to Krishna consciousness and make his life perfect. No one should remain in this temporary world full as it is with miseries. So Prabhupada says, and so like, we're throwing you, we meaning he and the Parampara Acharyas and Srimati Radharani and Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda and the Panchatat, we're throwing you the lifeline. And Prabhupada emphasizes, and you need to grab the lifeline. No one's going to do that for you. You need to grab the lifeline. When Krishna speaks the whole Bhagavad Gita, then and right towards the very end, then he says to Arjuna, okay, now consider carefully what I have said, deliberate on this fully, and do as you wish to do. Meaning, Krishna's not saying, I don't care. Krishna wants Arjuna to choose wisely for his best interest. Same time, Krishna, he's not, no force. Once there's force or coercion or like that, then there's no love. So Krishna wants Arjuna to choose wisely. So Prabhupada is like so much wanting. Prabhupada will sometimes say, like he's spilling hundreds of gallons of blood to make one sincere follower of Krishna. So he says, like, no one's going to grab the lifeline for you. No one's going to grab the lifeline. So that's our opportunity. That's our responsibility. So I'll read this verse again. Text 33, chapter 9, Bhagavad Gita. Kim punar brahmana punya bhakta rajar shayastata anityam masukam lokam imam prapya bhajasvam. How much greater then are the Brahmins, the righteous, the devotees and saintly kings who in this temporary miserable world engage in loving service unto me. Okay, thank you. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for giving your presence and power of hearing to Bhagavad Gita. I welcome if anyone would like to share any comments or realizations or ask any questions at this time.
Thank you, Dhira Govinda Prabhu. Very, very nice presentation. Very nice. Thank you very much. Devotees, if you have any questions, anybody would like to ask, please go ahead. So before, I'll give you all some time to think. In the meantime, I'll ask a few questions. So I have one question. Prabhu, you said about that we have to be in the line of Arjuna. So when you say we have to be in the line of Arjuna, what exactly did you mean? Should we be non-envious like Arjuna? Should we be in the parampara of Arjuna? Or should we be like a friend to Krishna like Arjuna was?
Okay, thanks for that question. Essentially, I'm meaning to be anasuyave, to be non-envious like Arjuna. And Krishna says, Bhaktosi me sakacheti. He says, you're my devotee and my friend. So we want to, to be to recognize our position as a servant of Krishna. And for sure, like, we don't want to imitate like Arjuna's rasa with Krishna, like, as far as our eternal rasa with Krishna, that'll get revealed when Krishna wants to reveal that, when Srila Prabhupada wants to introduce us to Krishna. So we don't want to imitate that. At the same time, we definitely want to be friendly to Krishna and friendly to Krishna's mission, and to cultivate a spirit of service to Krishna through his pure devotee, and not service to my false ego and senses. And so to serve someone and to humbly chant their name and serve their mission, that requires, I'm not envious, or at least I'm not giving power to envy.
So exactly, non-envious means what exactly? How do we go about that? Being non-envious. Is it non-envious to the other living entities, or?
Yeah, okay, thanks for that. Okay, and envy is like jealousy. It means like, I want to bring Krishna or Srila Prabhupada down to my level. Or I want to be seen at their level. Okay, I want what they have. I want the bliss they have. I want the position they have. Or actually, really in the next verse, Prabhupada gets into that a lot in the purport, but I won't go there so much, because who's ever going to give the class on the next verse will get into that. But Prabhupada gets angry at commentators who try to depict Krishna as an ordinary person. Avijananti mamuda manushim tam ashuta. Parambhava majanato mama bhuta maheshwaram. Krishna says, fools deride me when I appear in the human form. So we want to, maybe Krishna did this, maybe he was good at that, but he's basically, maybe he had a lot of sattva gun. He's basically an ordinary person like me. Okay, so like, okay, both the Mayavad and Sahajya tendencies, they're forms of envy and jealousy. Okay, to equalize. So like Mayavad, the idea is, I'll bring Krishna. The idea is Krishna's body, Krishna's activities, Krishna's pastimes, they're Maya, just like this material world. And maybe it's relatively sattvic, but it's still Maya. So trying to bring Krishna, that's envy. And Lord Brahma says in Bhagavatam, Yene Ravindaksha vimukti maninas tvayasta bhavadavi shuddha buddhayo ariya kritrina brahm padam tada patant yado nadrita yushmadangreya. Such persons, even if they do achieve some freedom from material desires, they're going to fall back down in material existence because they have envy of Krishna. Okay, and then the Sahaji idea, like Mayavadi, bring Krishna's spiritual body and pastimes and personality to the material level, try to kill Krishna philosophically. And the Sahaji idea is to try to, the idea is to think, to concoct some philosophy that this material body is spiritual, and like Krishna wants to enjoy this material body, and to think like that. So they're all forms of envy and jealousy. And as far as the parampara of Arjuna, essentially like Srila Prabhupada, he's a friend of Krishna, and so he's essentially in the sampradaya, the part, he's in the parampara. So by following Prabhupada, we're following Arjuna.
Okay, that was wonderful. Thank you, Prabhu. And one more question. Like we know this very well, that material energy is temporary. But when we want to see material energy as temporary, it's so difficult because it's like Jiva is Anadi from, Anadi means from forever. And material energy is also Anadi. We don't know when the material energy all began.
Yeah.
So it's like material energy is temporary, is like difficult to imagine or to understand. How do we understand this? Material energy is temporary.
Yeah. Right. So, okay. So the way I see it is, the way I understand it from Srila Prabhupada, right there in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita as it is, that that material energy is eternal. It's not temporary. The material energy, prakriti, it's eternal. What Prabhupada describes in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita has five subjects. One is prakriti, material energy, and the other is the jiva, the soul. The other is Ishvara, the supreme. Another is kala, time, and the fifth is karma. And Prabhupada makes it clear, of those five, four are eternal. The one that's temporary is karma. Karma can be destroyed. So prakriti is eternal, but the forms it takes, like what Prabhupada says in this purport, he talks about the world, the material world. Okay, so the forms it takes, whether it's the planets or these eyeglasses or this computer or this body, the forms are temporary, and the way we perceive the material energy is illusory. Like I perceive the material energy is not connected with Krishna. That sort of means that I'm in Maya. Maya means that which is not. Well, everything is connected with Krishna, but I'm not realizing the connection of the energy with Krishna. So material energy is a type of energy of Krishna that is connected with Krishna, that moves us to forget how we're connected with Krishna and how Krishna's energies are connected with Krishna. So the forms are temporary, and the forms that Prakriti takes are temporary. Whether it's the whole universe or an atom, the forms are temporary, but the energy exists eternally. That's my understanding.
Yes, Prabhu. Well, that is correct. You have corrected me. That is right. Material energy is eternal. But even the material world, even that is so difficult to imagine. I know you can say, but it's temporary. Prabhupada is saying it's temporary, and it has got its, but the time frame is so huge, so vast that we almost think that it's there forever. It's very difficult to take it in, to understand that the temporariness of the material world.
Yeah, with our limited material brain, mind, intelligence, it's difficult. And that's why now sometimes, because like Prabhupada will describe the conditioned souls like us as nitya bada, which means eternally conditioned by the material energy. Now the material energy is eternal. Sometimes it's manifest, sometimes not. The forms it takes are temporary, but sometimes a temporary form can be for 1 nanosecond, and sometimes a temporary form can be for 311,040,000,000,000 years, the lifetime of Brahma. At the same time, even that lifetime of Brahma, as incalculable as it is for our conditioning, jivanti loma vilaja jagarandanata vishnurmahansa yasya kala vishesho govinda mari purusham dhammam bhajami. That whole 311 trillion years lifetime of Brahma, it's simply one exhalation for the Mahavishnu. So Prabhupada would say nitya bada, in one sense it translates as eternally conditioned, but Prabhupada will sometimes describe more clearly. He says it doesn't really mean eternal. It doesn't really mean eternal. It means it's so long ago, since time immemorial, we're not able to trace out the beginning.
Yes, the concept, yes, you're right. The concept is so difficult to take in, that the eternality of it. Eternal, it looks very eternal, but Actually, it has an end. It has a beginning. Thank you very much for answering my questions. Anyone else has any questions? Devotees? Anybody would like to ask anything?
Any questions or comments? Hare Krishna.
Sharanayana Prabhu, you have to say something?
I just want to know in the purport why Prabhupada has mentioned come back quickly to back home, back to Godhead. So here quickly means, is it in the same life or what actually it means?
Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, in the purport, okay, I'm not. Yes, this world is declared by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be temporary and full of miseries. And so Prabhupada's paraphrase, he's quoting Krishna speaking to Arjuna, saying, Arjuna was born in a saintly royal family. To him also the Lord says, take to my devotional service and come quickly back to Godhead, back home. Well, I appreciate the question. So Prabhupada makes it clear that we can make this, because ultimately it's up to Krishna, but work like everything depends on us, pray like everything depends on Krishna. We can make this our last lifetime. Sometimes they'll say it just like, it might be a gradual process for most, but even related to the discussion a few minutes ago with Archana Mataji, even this quickly, right? Even if it's quickly, right? There's the servant of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya, for some reason, kind of banned him from the association because he was associating with Mayavadis like that. And he said, no, he can never come back to my association. And then the other devotees were pleading with him, oh, but he's so sincere. And at some point, Lord Chaitanya said, okay, after 10 million births, he can associate with me again. So then, the devotees were kind of despondent. 10 million births? What? I mean, he said, and so they went and told him, and he started dancing in ecstasy. He started, in 10 million births, I'll get to associate with Lord Chaitanya in just 10 million births. So so for him, his view is 10 million births. That's quickly. Because again, even Yakarinarna Vajale Bhajatis Mayoga, that for him, even this 311 trillion, even 10 million lifetimes of Brahma, that's not even a lightning flash compared to the eternal life of the soul. So it's a matter of perspective. What is this quickly? What is this quickly? And we see, sometimes we'll see like Prabhupada will write, and then the Maharaj Chitraketu, by dint of his sincere service, went back to Godhead. But we see that there was actually a few lifetimes involved as Vitrasur and this and that. So what we can think about, that's a whole nother, another lifetime of 70 years. But again, it's kind of just an eye blink in compared to eternal time, where material time is conspicuous by its absence. So what quickly means, I'm not saying to know exactly what Prabhupada means. Prabhupada urges us, be serious, this is no place for a gentleman, as he says in this purport. Make this your last lifetime. So kind of, so that's possible. That's possible. And in one sense, it's even easy. If we're just sincere, it's easy. To be that sincere is not necessarily so easy. But Prabhupada urges us, so my understanding, from wherever we're at, let's be more urgent about perfecting our life, about accelerating on the path of perfections. Be more urgent today than I was yesterday. And again, and that question relates to a theme of the class of the verse and purport that yeah, it's from where we're at for most of us. It's healthy to like, yeah, I want to get out of this miserable suffering of the material world, temporary, anityam, asukam, lokam, temporary, full of miseries and torment. I want to get out of here. Then a higher level, like Srila Prabhupada, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, Lord Chaitanya's Nadanam Najanam Nasudrim, Janmane Janmani Shri. Higher level is kind of like, oh, quickly, not quickly, whatever. I have no hope for liberation. Just let me serve Prabhupada's mission. Janme, Janme, Prabhu say. So this could be our last life if we're serious. Bhakti Yoga programs, Mother Malini. You're on mute. You're on mute. I'm not hearing.
Apologize.
You're on mute. I'm not hearing. You're on mute. I'm not hearing.
Try to unmute myself twice. I
I'm sorry.
apologize for coming late. I didn't get the passcode until just a few minutes ago, but I came in the middle of Mother Archana speaking. And one thing I've been meditating on related to time and timelessness is Srila Prabhupada seems to make like to associate time with past, present, and future. So in that sense, even quickly is meaningless.
Yeah.
And like, I'm wondering, like, as a pure devotees thinking, and as we are making advancement, like how much of that is part of the process of stepping out of the concept of past, present, and future, like where there is no more past, present, and future. And then in a sense, today or tomorrow or 100 lives, or it's the one and the same.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Melanie. Yeah, and that's my understanding. That's the truly transcendental perspective, right? So, like, tamagun is destruction, rajagun is creation, sattva is maintenance. So when we say Vaikuntha, Goloka Vrindavan, spiritual world, it's Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. It's an element. It's an energy of Krishna with no tinges of rajas or tamas. So it means there's no creation and there's no destruction. There's only maintenance. So there's no past or future. Every moment exists eternally. Now, like, from a mind conditioned in 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of material time, like what? But as we approach sattva, we have more and more an experience of that timelessness. Even Prabhupada would sometimes say, Albert Einstein had the right idea about the relativity of time. So like when we go like up to higher and higher sattvic planets, which means higher and higher sattvic consciousness, then like for Brahma, that highest heavenly sattvic consciousness, time is very slow. There's practically no destruction or creation. Like, so one moment, one moment for him is just like trillions of years here, like that, so it's like this very, very expansive sense of space and time. So that's my understanding. As we come to more and more sattva, we get some glimpse into that perspective of, and actually realize spiritual life. Each moment exists eternally, like Einstein's theory, which Prabhupada says he had the right idea. The idea is like as we approach the speed of light, then time slows down to nothing, like that. So it's and things become less and less dense, like that. So it relates to our consciousness as we'll perceive time and space depending on the consciousness we cultivate. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you everybody for joining, and thank you very much, Dhira Govinda Prabhu, for your kind explanations on this purport. And thank you everyone. I'm very sorry about the problem with the